Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing YouTube channel, and if you've spent a second here, you will know I am on a mission to support you to be more successful in your business. The way I believe you are more successful in your business is by being more effective with your sales and marketing. So not only am I here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing, I'm dragging in anyone I can find to share what they know about sales and marketing, and I'm bringing Mel in once a fortnight to talk to us about what's going on in the world of sales and marketing. It's Mel, the co-creator, guest full, concierge of co-creation at Crazy Might Work. Good morning, good afternoon, Mel. How are you?
Good morning, good afternoon to you, sir. Very well, I'm very, very well. We're enjoying sunshine here in Australia after 4 weeks of rain.
Okay, and the floods are subsiding and the work's going on and the community are responding. We don't need to talk about that. We do need to talk about any kind of brilliance that you might have achieved in the last week. I'm getting a sense that you're very busy.
Look, sort of some interesting things happening for us. We rewrote our marketing strategy and plan, which is a really fantastic thing to do.
Those are great keywords to drop into this. Thank you. Marketing strategy and marketing plan. We've got those in 4 times now, 2 times each.
Yeah. Really 2 different things too, right? And
yes.
So we really just started to connect the dots and get a bit more organized for the year. And so we're feeling pretty chuffed with ourselves now. We just have to, we've planned the work. We've got to work the plan. That's where we're at.
That's what we have to do. I'm coming to the realization that there are 3 cornerstones to effective marketing. I'm going to forget them, but there are 3 things that are the most important. I'm not going to forget them. The first is probably your customer. So you have to be a customer-centric business if you're going to be effective in your marketing. Or rather, the more customer-focused you are, the more effective you will be. The second thing is price. There's like a universe of opportunity in pricing that people don't even consider. That's the second thing. The third thing is having a plan. If you're going to set out in the world with your little pile of resources to affect a change and to deliver value, then you need a plan. People don't plan enough. That's what I think. So that's good news that you've done that. How are you feeling now that you've put together your marketing strategy and your marketing plan?
I feel like I want to run them past you because I'm sure you could offer some advice and insights.
You are welcome to do that. I owe you 43 minutes from the shit we've been talking already before we started this morning. So you are welcome. You can do that.
Do feel really good. Feel really a bit more in control in a world that is not under control right now. So it in a small way, in our little corner, we feel as a business that we are a bit more on top of things. And actually making that plan, it feels like, to your point about the customer being the first thing,
kind of plan
we feel like we're serving them better.
Yeah, what kind of plan was a marketing plan?
Yeah.
We can't marketing plan enough for the algorithm, okay?
Marketing plan is what we have done, all about the marketing. There's marketing in it, and we love it. There's a plan. Because of the marketing.
Super cool. It's hugely empowering, isn't it? When you do that, when you feel, okay, like I at least have some sense of where I am and where I want to go and how I might get there. It's so hugely empowering. People don't do it. People don't.
Look, and even if, we're in sales, and when we were 5, most people didn't say, when I grow up, I want to be in sales and marketing. But
also
actually,
great keywords.
We're in service of these customers that need and want our products and services. So I feel like actually we're serving them better. We're giving people a better experience because we're approaching the right people with the right message at the right time.
Yes.
Versus spray and pray or anything like that. So we're actually doing a better job for our customers by having a good plan.
Yes. And the thing is, I think also about the plan is it's so easy to get blown off course. No, that's not even the thing. The thing is that there are predators out there who want your marketing budget and could not give a shit if you succeed or fail. And by those predators, I'm talking about Google, I'm talking about Twitter, I'm talking about LinkedIn, I'm talking about every magazine that's ever been published, or you know, there are people who will come and rob you of your resources and leave you in the gutter. And if you don't have a marketing plan or a marketing strategy, you are pretty much
You're buying
a
lottery
sheep to the
tickets.
slaughter. That's what you are. I was going to swear, I didn't need to swear. A lamb to the slaughter. That's what you are. Okay, good. So I'm glad you've done that. That's a huge achievement. I will very happily look at it for you if you'd like me to.
The pressure.
You are very welcome. Okay, good. So this is the news. The format is you bring 3 stories, I bring 3 stories. I've not done particularly well with my 3 stories. I've got 2 or 4 stories. 3 stories that are essentially about the same thing. You know, I like to talk about the downfall of these monolithic platforms, corporations. So that's one of mine to give you a sense of what it is. Let's hear what your 3 stories are first.
So I don't know if this is a story. It's related to the pandemic, but
Okay.
it's delivering your brand promise in light of emergency situations. So like it's really about how, you know, all these people have got COVID and then not being able to deliver on their brand promise because supply chains are falling over and so on.
Okay, so that's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so it's affecting service agreements, and I'm interested in what brands are doing about correcting that.
Okay,
So
cool. That's
so
one.
that's yep. The second is actually about your marketing plan robustness, and that it's sort of related. And I guess having just been through a review, it's actually saying has people's marketing, are they flexible enough
Yes.
for because I think sometimes, you know, you can have a plan but then life happens.
Yes.
So how do you pivot really
Okay,
your
cool.
plan?
Excellent.
And if we get that far, there's also something about trend spotting.
Trend spotting.
Trend spotting, the art and science of trend spotting. So it's been of interest to me for a while, but it is interesting now because trends are coming and going faster than ever.
Yes. Okay, cool. I'm also interested. There's some crossover here. Okay, so my first story is Google domains, like Google producing domains like website domains, like .co.uk or with like that bit, has come out of beta after 7 years. So that's one aspect. I think I've got 2. So that's one aspect of this news story. The second thing is that Google employees are becoming unhappy with pay, promotions, and execution. So that's the second part of this 3-part news story. And then the third part is what I'm really excited about, is an opinion piece in The Guardian this weekend. Is Google's domination of the internet finally over? So these 3 things, like we did Facebook's triple threat with Yonuts back in December. Now I'm interested in Google's triple threat. So that's kind of one of my stories, I think. There's 3 aspects to it, but 3 different stories make up one aspect. The other one, there's some crossover with yours, which is a thing that's in Marketing Week, which is war in Ukraine, how brands are responding. And actually, I was looking for this news story rather than it being found, because I've got a bit of a bugbear about a trend that's happening currently. That I wanted to talk about, like a particular brand's response to what's happening in the Ukraine. So those are my 4 or 2, probably 2. So you've got 3. So we should start with yours. We should run a clock so we don't run over. Let's talk about which of yours is the one that you want to talk about most.
Goodness me.
No pressure. The clock's ticking.
I think trend spotting. I think trend
spotting. Okay, good.
Not trend spotting. Very easy to confuse these 2.
Yes.
Trend spotting.
Sorry, just before we start, because you mentioned train spotting, and I was reminded of it this week. There's a very amusing story of how Oasis didn't contribute to the soundtrack of Train Spotting because Noel Gallagher thought it was actually a film about train spotting. Did you know that?
Boy, was he surprised. Just like,
probably the most amazing British film, certainly of the last 30 years. maybe the best soundtrack to a British film ever. And Noel Gallagher was probably too stoned and just thought, I don't want my music on a film about train spotting. Crazy.
Maybe
Okay.
he should have been in it. I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, good. Train
So,
spotting.
yeah, what it is understanding that we actually get insights about what's happening when we're not thinking about the problem. So my thought is how are people arriving at trends, noticing trends, keeping up with what's happening out there? And we know from neuroscience, which is something we're working a lot more with neuroscience now, is that actually we're much more successful at generating insights and noticing things when we're not actually working. So we're actually when we're in the shower, walking the dog, at the cafe. And so I'm just wondering about maybe it's a sort of some advice, is all the good ideas I've ever had about business planning and so on have happened when I'm walking along the river or, doing something completely not related to work. And so, but then if that's true, are companies best putting time into people's diaries to say you need to spend, Friday not thinking about work, because that's when you're going to actually solve the problems of Monday to Thursday. And so it's actually like if you sit in a cafe and you just look around, no matter what business you're in, you'll have some level of, I think, some level of insight about what's going on in the world. You hear conversations, you'll notice things. There's so many things that you could take on. It's a really weird topic, I know, but it's just actually thinking about, well, if the best ideas come from sitting under a tree, why aren't we doing that more and more methodically?
Okay.
So that we're on.
Do you want the good news? I don't think it's weird, and I've got an opinion, so I'm very happy to talk about this.
Good.
Okay, but I think there's a couple of things that you're talking about. I think you're talking about creativity is one thing that you're talking about. And I don't think you're really talking about trend setting. This whole thing, this marketing news came about because when I did the talk marketing thing with Jonas, he told me he was spending half an hour a day like consuming changes in what was going on. So I thought, okay, if we were to do the news for people, then it would save them some time having to go and look for it themselves. So this whole thing came about from something like this idea. I want to do trend spotting first. I think it's dangerous. I think following trends or looking to trends or picking up on trends is what will pull you off course. The thing that I think is that your whole business should be about how you deliver value to your customers, and that's it. And if you are chasing every trend that comes along, then the danger is that you move away from that. So I had a boss once, and we had 1 week I'm not even joking, I think it was 27 and a half hours of internal meetings. And this guy would read the newspaper in the morning and then come in and want to discuss like that day's news with us every day. And it's like, you do know that you're paying us to do jobs. I mean, if you want to pay us to sit here and talk to you about the news, that's fine. But we're salespeople, and a proportion of what we earn comes from us actually being effective at doing our jobs, not sitting here talking about the news. So that always strikes me as like the worst case. It'd be like, oh, the stock market's up. What's that going to mean for our sales performance this week? And the answer is nothing. It's like nothing. None of our sales are hinging on the fact that somebody's going to make a few quid on the stock market or not. I think that trend setting thing, that trend chasing thing is really quite dangerous for that reason. Like the reason we're in business, or the reason we should be in business, is to deliver value for our customers. The creativity thing is interesting because I think the better informed you are, like when I put together a marketing strategy, 70% of it is situational analysis. 70% of it is how much do we actually understand about where we are? What we're doing, what we're performing, what the market looks like, what the competitors look like, what actually our product range looks like, what our customers look like and how they're feeling about us. And that's 70% of it. Because once you've done that work, I think, then you don't need to have any flash of inspiration. You are actually informed. You can actually say, okay, well, this looks like the opportunity. Do you know what I mean? And then you are welcome to have flashes of inspiration and maybe get away from being very close to it, to have like helicopter views and things. So I think if you are talking about those two things, if you're talking about trend spotting, I think it's not a good use of energy, and I think potentially dangerous. And if you're talking about creativity, I think the better informed you are, like the more you are prepared to interrogate your business and your market and your performance and your offering and your competitors and all of those things, then I think there is less need for that flash of inspiration type creativity. The solutions, the patterns start to kind of present themselves.
I think that with the trend spotting, perhaps I might be more thinking about observation, ethnographic observation. So, for example, one of our clients is the biggest cereal manufacturer in Australia, and we had them commute to work in 5 different ways. When I say work, commute to our location for the workshop, and we had them observe what they saw people eating in that journey, and then we had them ask people what they had for breakfast and how they consumed breakfast, and the goal was to challenge their own assumptions about how people have breakfast and what they eat for breakfast and what they want.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a very different, I suppose it's just sort of noticing, and some of the things that people noticed were really surprising to them, because the data didn't tell them that, which was that people eat a muesli bar and that's breakfast. They
Yes.
should have known that. And also that people wanted to have a liquid breakfast, a smoothie, and things like that. So but they wouldn't have really, in the surveys that they would have, there are other instruments and ways of getting that insight, in customer insight, wasn't really coming from focus groups and so on. So it was actually just commuting to work and observing all these different people and what they ate and where they sat and what they ordered, and then just playing that back to the group and saying, I noticed that this group at the hospital, they all did this, and we would never have, so there's quite a few insights that came out of it that were kind of interesting. There's sort of a bit more maybe customer watching is what I'm saying, in a non-creepy way.
Yes. No, but that's the gig, isn't it? That is the gig.
Yeah.
It's like, and this is what I tell people when I teach them, is like being an effective marketer is an exercise in knowing your market better and better and better. And like you said before, like if you want to be really good at this, you just need to land the right message on the right person at the right time. That's the gig. So in a non-creepy way, I think it's really important, because this is going industrial and I don't like it. And I think the other thing you're referring to is the danger of analysis. And I think the other thing, I'm always going to laugh when you tell me what you do with your clients, because it astounds me that you manage to make money like this. It really does all the time. But that's great. So the danger of doing analysis is if you do analysis with the hope of coming to a conclusion, or the expectation that you're going to come to a conclusion, or you do analysis looking for the result that you're looking for. Does that make sense? And I think more
with an open mind,
because the mission is entrenched. Like everybody knows this is what we need, this is what we want. My boss is going to be pleased when I produce an analysis that confirms their beliefs. So the danger of that is how you do your quantitative and your qualitative statives. There's too many statives for me. But how you do that, and you are also able to avoid your own biases or the outcomes that you are looking for on the way in, So I think that's the danger of it. But
yeah. So we trained these teams before we deployed them in the field, so that they understood what ethnographic research looks like, which is not inserting your own opinions on what you're observing, but just the things they noticed became a lot more interesting than what perhaps they might have observed without having a bit of guidance as to what observation. We think we know how to observe people, but actually there's an art to observation.
Yes.
Noticing what is around the person and who they're interacting with when they're eating breakfast, for example, that has a bearing on the person's choices.
Yes.
Are they eating that because their boss is there, or have they got? Is it in their one hand because the other one's got the mobile, so they've got to have. It's got to be like what's going on there. So observing everything.
Yes.
How are they sitting? What are they wearing? So we had them really notice all these things with having no opinion about it. And then we discover what in the observation was an insight, without assuming that everything was an insight.
Yes.
What was insightful about that? Well, what was insightful? It's got to be in your hand. It can't be too hot, and so on. And so that just sort of, perhaps it's just more deep observation of customers. One more example before we maybe end on this one was we worked in aged care, and one of our clients had they sold pills, pharmaceutical firm. They observed a lady in residential aged care, and they said to her, do you have problems with taking, because she had arthritic hands, in taking the lid off the pill box? And she said, oh no, it's no problem at all, which they really were surprised by. And so they had the wherewithal to say, would you mind showing us how you do it? So she took the pill box and said, follow me. She goes into her kitchen where she's got a hand slicing machine that she turned on. She pushed the pill bottle into the hand slicer and it chopped the lid off the pill bottle. And then she said, there you go. Yeah. Well, hopefully just the lid.
Yes.
She said, there you go. And now I can easily reach these pills. So I have no problem at all. Now, they would never have learned that from a survey or an interview without just coming from deep observation. So it's I suppose that, very deeply observing and noticing things.
Yeah, but you say deep observation, but is that not interaction? They actually had a conversation and she engaged with them and they showed her. I'm all for this, 100%. The thing is, it's only qualitative, but this is the thing. It has to be that balance of the two. Do you know? And we've got the data and we've got the observation, and somewhere in between these two things is the really valuable thing. So yeah, I'm 100% for that. I'm 100% for engaging with customers. And I think the danger is that businesses think some hoodoo has gone on if people continue to give them money, and they don't want to upset that by talking to them, But the thing is, this is an interesting insight into the way that one person is doing this. But your customers hold the keys to the secrets of your marketing. They know the value that you deliver, and they know why they want it, and they know how they want it, and they know when they want it, and they know what they're prepared to pay for it. So all of the mysteries of your marketing, which is what should I offer, how should I present it, which channel should I use, your customers know the answers to all of those questions. And in this instance, the customer knew how to get the pills out of the box. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so whatever it is you're challenged by, almost, in terms of understanding your customers, they know the answer, so you should be engaging with your customers. Like that's what sales and marketing should be doing. And I don't think it does it anything like enough, but I'm a huge advocate of this. Can I give you for instance, I've been misbehaving in the last 2 weeks since I spoke to you. Hootsuite.
This sounds promising. Good.
Hootsuite. Do you know Hootsuite? They are the They took it upon themselves to treble their prices. So I don't know how.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many years this has been going on that I've been a customer and I've been paying $30. And sometimes I'm quite good at posting, sometimes I'm not. But it's only $30. So if I do it and it's good, I feel great. If I don't, it's only $30. Well, they trebled their rates. So I objected because some months I don't actually use it at all. I'm not going to pay $90 for something I don't use at all. And I got on a mission, and I went to their chat bot on their website, it's a complete piece of shit. It's like it doesn't matter what you put in. It will say, here's 3 articles you can read. Are you happy? Yes, no, I'm not happy. What can we help you with? Here's 3 articles you can read. And you could spend you could spend forever there. So
I've
then
been on
I went
loops,
then I went to their support, which is also an abomination. Literally an abomination. So I'm like, you're stealing my money. Like, I've agreed for you to take $30. You've taken $90. You still give me my money back, blah, blah, blah. And obviously that wasn't working. So I went to their Twitter and I posted, you're stealing my money. What are you going to do about stealing my money? This went on for about 8 days. I'm like, okay, now I'm bored of this. So I Googled who is the CEO of Hoostsuite and I tagged him in a post saying, blah, blah, whatever his name is. How do I get service out of your business? And he responded, because I'd tagged him publicly. It had like 1,500 views. It was the most popular LinkedIn post I've produced in the last 10 years, saying, oh, please speak to my customer organization guy. So I responded saying, it's no wonder nobody in your organization wants to do their job if this is the example you're setting. And his organization, and anyway, the whole thing's a complete joke. Now, because I've been through this process, I've found one other person at least who is really unhappy with Hootsuite for this. You're suggesting that you're not entirely happy with Hootsuite for this. So in this process, I've discovered 2 customers of Hootsuite who are unhappy with this process. So this isn't like how to delight your customers. This is how to stop fucking your customers off. Do you know what I mean? And the 2 most senior people in the business are abusing them. That's exactly what's gone on. So the 2 most senior people in that business absolutely could not give a shit. Like, lesson number 1 is, oh, so now this customer organization, they call him, customer organization, what does that mean? Like, customer service, I understand. Customer excellence, I understand. Customer love, I understand. Customer organization. I don't need to be organized. I need to be served. Do you know what I mean? So then this goes on, and then he messaged me saying, like, again, another week has passed, and he sent me a message saying, oh, and no, so the first thing was they said, oh, we saw you got your refund. And I'm like, and? That's not the point now. It's like, how much of your time do you expect me to waste on your service? And then he messaged me saying, oh, no, well, you didn't get the emails. I've been to the systems and you didn't get the emails. But that's not the point. The point is, you fucked up 5 times. Like, don't treble your prices. Don't put up a chatbot which completely wastes people's time. Don't put customer services people responding to things where they just don't do anything for 8 days. Don't have your Twitter people saying repeatedly, oh, do something else and we'll respond. Don't pass the buck if I take the trouble to message the CEO. And don't tell me something I already know. If you're the customer service VP and you're earning upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, do your fucking job. So you fucked up 6 times. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, rant over. I've been wanting to say that to somebody. The lesson is, again, but I've discovered 3 people, me, this other lady who's on Twitter, they've been messing her around for a month, and you are all unhappy with what's going on at Hootsuite, and they haven't got the first clue. They think it was a work of genius trebling their prices. How many people like me, I'm on a mission, you're going to know I'm on a mission. How many people are unhappy about this, Hootsuite customers? They claim to have 25 million. So what do we think? 100% of the 3 customers I know at Hootsuite are really unhappy about this, or varying scales of unhappy. I wonder what percentage of their 25 million customers are unhappy about this and trying to do something about it and getting absolutely nowhere, getting completely whitewashed.
You know, it feeds really well into my market plan robustness topic. Not saying jump to that, but
okay,
just to say, because if you change something in a big way, which to me that's what this is, and you haven't got a response team for a big change, then the big change risks being a disaster. I think really the change, it could be a good change or a bad change. Either way, if you do a big change, you need a response team. So like if I renovate my house, the builders should be ready for 6 months on hand to say, I'll just tweak that a bit for you because the roof fell in, and whatever disaster besets me post the purchase. And so in any business, I feel like if you've renovated your business, you need to have the construction team on hand as a response team. ready to sort of, navigate the change
Yes.
with customers. And the people you're going to learn the most from are your angry customers. They are actually the best, because if you can serve an angry customer, that's a loyal customer for life.
Yes.
If you've ever turned an angry customer around, and you can, it's very simple. There's really just listen, restate, set expectations, get agreement.
Hootsuite don't know that.
No. So if you can do that, it's really not hard. Then you've got, first of all, loyal customers for life who will happily pay that extra money.
Yeah.
Mostly. But you've also got an insight into how people are consuming your product, which is missed that opportunity with you.
Yes.
To say, what could we offer you as, some kind of a weird other package that we haven't thought about before, because you can't be the only one.
But they haven't even heard me. That's like step one, is just let the person know who's jumping up and down. Do you want to hear another story? Quick story. We've gone to 22 minutes on this, but I think it's interesting and useful. When I was in South Africa, they were busy outsourcing. This was in the early noughties. They were busy outsourcing directory inquiries to South Africa. It made perfect sense. The people were cheaper. They spoke English on a very similar timescale. Absolutely makes perfect sense. What they didn't counter or factor was the cultural differences. So I lived in South Africa for 5 years. I've never heard a South African apologize. Not white, not black, not Indian, not Muslim, not Portuguese. No South Africa I've ever met in my life has ever apologized within earshot of me. Not to me, within earshot. They don't apologize. So I'm talking to my friend, and he got a job as like a manager in one of these things. And I'm like, so how's it going? He's like, oh yeah, it's really interesting. It's like, they said to us, be really careful when you're dealing with English people, because what you don't want to do is upset them. So if you can't find the number they're looking for, what you need to do is just apologize. Say, look, sorry, we haven't been able to help you this time, but, please use us again, because we'll endeavor to help you in the future. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because you guys aren't going to apologize. So what goes on? He's like, oh, well, we just give them the wrong number. Throwing a hand grenade. So the whole exercise, like the outsourcing this whole thing to South Africa, it was done and dusted. I'm not joking. It might have been 3.5 months before the whole thing completely failed, because of that one cultural difference that they didn't know. Like, these people will just not apologize. They won't apologize. Whatever happens, culturally, they don't do it. So it's really interesting. It's about knowing your market, and it's about like a million miles away from what I'm talking about, which is like just making sure that your customers aren't completely pissed off with you. I've
got a couple of clients at the moment who are kind of suffering from this a bit, because they've got a brand promise, and perhaps actually I can pick it up in the next subject, but they've had people off sick with COVID, like a lot of people.
Yes.
And so they're not getting back to customers for 2 weeks. And that is not okay, but it's also reasonable, because they have had this situation. So
yes.
But they haven't.
Well, let's talk. We'll do my second story. We'll do your third story, and then we'll do this, because I think this ties in with also what I'm saying about how brands are responding to what's going on in Ukraine as well. So that will take us. We've done 24 minutes on the first story. I think that's fine. Let's go 10 minutes on the second story. It's my story. It is the downfall, I think, of Google. So this thing, Google's domains are finally out. So Google's domains is finally out of beta after more than 7 years. Even Gmail wasn't in beta that long. So what a domain name is they announced this on Tuesday last week. The date of this is the 15th of March. So you can register a domain with Google. There's 300 different domain endings. It went into beta in July 2014. So this is interesting. Like Google are the internet company, Domains are the mechanism of the internet. They should be able to produce a domain service like Namecheap, GoDaddy, like all of these things. They've all been doing it for years. Google can't do it Google can't keep their employees happy. So Google employees are becoming unhappy with pay, promotions, and execution, survey results show. So in the annual Google Guide survey, Google workers gave their employer particularly poor marks on how compensation compares to pay for similar jobs at other companies. Employers also say they face growing bureaucracy that slows them down, survey results showed. CEO received a favourable rating of 84% from employees, but he did worse when it came to execution. So this is, I mean, the thing is, Google, Facebook, Apple, these places have been lauded for the last 15 years as the places to work. So I always see this as cracks forming. And then there's this opinion piece in the Guardian this week. Is Google's domination of the internet finally over? And to be honest, I don't even know how it could be. But what this guy is saying is that basically they've stepped away from their principle. The principle was it doesn't matter. Like the only thing that matters is relevance, is providing the right result for the consumer. So this links back to what we were saying in the last. And they've stepped away from that. So they're not doing that anymore. So it's failing. So, yeah. So are we seeing the end of Google? Is what I think is interesting. And this ties into like the third thing that we're going to talk about, or the way that I'm going to talk about it is, it's biased. Like they are putting in the results that they want to put in. And that's why people are becoming less invested in it. Okay, so the company's founders were adamant that favouring advertisers' pages would undermine the integrity of their results. We expect, they wrote in 1998, that advertising-funded search engines will be inherently biased towards the advertisers and away from the needs of the consumers. The evolution of advertising has mixed incentives that it is crucial to have a competitive search engine that is transparent and in the academic realm. Quite so, but then after burning investors' money for 2 years, the founders discovered in 2000 that high-minded objectivity doesn't pay the rent, and so they morphed into surveillance capitalists, monitoring their users to glean information about them that would be of interest to advertisers. Between then and the company's initial public offering in 2004, Google's revenues increased by nearly 4,000. So it feels like it might almost be really old news, but maybe it's just taken 22 years for the shit to finally hit the fan. Now it's not just advertiser bias, it's political bias. I don't know if you've seen, but they've come out and they've said, okay, you can call for violence if it's against Russians and you live in these particular countries. It's not,
Wow.
no, I think that was Facebook that did that, to be fair, but I've seen that Russia has come out and demanded that Google stop calling for violence against Russians. So I don't know. Are we seeing the end of Google? Like people are talking about Brave as a better search engine or a less biased search engine. The other one, DuckDuckGo, they came out and said that they are fully in support of Ukraine over Russia. And so people are leaving that platform. And now Brave is like the last man standing. I don't know if you know Brave. It's another one of these things. It is an app in its own right and a search engine in its own right. What do you think?
Look, I think it's interesting to talk about the demise of a giant when it's 24 years old. So I look at things historically and globally. So like if you look, Hewlett Packard is 83 years old, and having been founded in 1939. So there's a company that has longevity. So I think it's interesting that the companies are generally having shorter life cycles than they ever had before. So companies in the 1930s and say around that time, 1900 even, generally were built to last. And it's true of companies, it's true of white goods, it's true of most things marriages, maybe, I don't know. But these things were built to last, having long durability. But as time has gone on, the life cycle of companies, so Facebook, that really was founded in 2004.
Yes.
So that's a teenager. So I just think it's a different sort of way of thinking about it, but I just think it's interesting to me on the historical global perspective how old a company seems to be and how long its life cycle is. So you have your new to market, then you hit the mass adoption, and that bell curve is shorter and shorter as time goes on. So, but what actually I think is useful is to look at companies like Hewlett Packard and go, how have they have had their fair share of challenges, but how have they managed to continue to be durable over the long term? And why is it? What went wrong with, let's say, Google and Facebook? What's missing for the durability of a company? And because they have, when you look at Google, they actually got the two major investors of Silicon Valley for the first time ever joint investing in Google, if you've read the Google story. And their first order of business was to appoint Eric Schmidt, which was why in 2000 they suddenly got their act together, if you like. So because before that it was really Sergey and Brin kind of doing their thing. And then it was the investors who said, we'll come in, but you need to have a correct management of this company. So Eric came in and put structure around Google, and look at it go. Now look where it is. But I wonder if there's something that was missing in that entrepreneurial foundation that leaves it open to these sorts of problems down the line.
Here's what's occurred to me when you say that. The thing that's missing is substance. Actual material things. Because this thing is just, and the same for Facebook and the same for maybe all of these businesses, these digital companies, is there is nothing of substance to them. So, if you're developing traditional physical products, you can make decisions, you can make changes, and they will go into the production cycle, and they will come out whenever they come out, 6 or 9 or 12 months later, and they will be effective for 2 or 3 years, and you'll learn something about them. So maybe the thing about these, the issue with Google, Facebook, all of these things is when I teach, I quite often put these tools up in front of people, and I've lost count of the amount of times where I've had to say to the group, I'm sorry, this doesn't look the way it did yesterday. Somebody at Google has had a bright idea and they've made a change. And so it's going to take me 10 minutes to work this out. Now, the issue, if I'm running an agency and I've got 20 Google Ads clients, I'm there all day, every day. I know what's going on. If I am a business and I'm running Google Ads, it might take me 3 months to get my head around it. It might take me a month or two to actually set up my campaigns and get them running. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing in my life. So when I come back 12, 18 months later, if it's changed that much, it's no good to me. I have to learn it again. Do you know what I mean? So I think these things are too lacking in substance and too malleable, and there hasn't been enough attention given to that. There hasn't been given enough attention given to the fact that you have to your customers, comes back to the customer-centric thing, have to be able to use the thing. That's what goes on.
It's one of the reasons I reluctantly stay with the expensive Apple products is because of the Genius Bar. Because I think when I first bought a Mac, I really didn't know what I was doing, and I had a great experience with them. And even recently, as last year, when I got the latest iPhone, I rang up and had sort of all sorts of issues with photos and whatever, and they were just on the phone to me for an hour. They rang me back within 20 minutes of me sending a ping. I didn't have Apple Care or anything. I just had bought the phone, so I wasn't on some service list. Yes. So I it's interesting how they're able to. I mean, it's expensive, but then they are delivering on helping me, and I'm just, who the hell am I? So I kind of wonder if that piece is missing, because they're, Apple is on a grand scale like Google. I'm guessing they don't have as many customers, and perhaps they have less. Their focus is on the customers who are, to their mind, of most value to them. So anyone can consume this, but we're really only going to look after these ones.
You see, I think the
And
difference is that customer centric. So 100%, Google think they are cleverer than their customers. It's a dangerous place to live, really dangerous place to live. But they really do think that. Apple think they're cleverer than their customers, but at least they know that the money comes from the customers and they have to support them. But the difference is, again, is that substance. It's a physical thing that you have in your hand, and you can walk into a store and you can get that thing looked at and you can leave without it.
yeah,
I just think, I think the whole thing is too malleable. Like, if you can change things overnight, you don't have to make too many bad decisions or good decisions before the thing has moved quite a long way away from what it was previously. I mean, Google Ads as a platform, I've watched it become less and less and less useful. That's the story of that as a platform over the last 15, 16 years. But they've got no mechanism to reach out to the customers to even know that they're moving too far away from it. It's dangerous. And I will always applaud, the revolutionary communist in me will always applaud the collapse of these monolithic corporations. That's where it is. I don't think it's very serious. Okay, that was 10 minutes on the second news story. Let's go with your third story. What was your third story?
oh my gosh, what was I interested in? I was talking about marketing plan robustness. Have we done that?
We haven't done that, no. But you're talking really about flexibility, are you?
Yeah, well, I think it's about we teach a method called analogous inquiry, which is really just looking at the strengths of others and mimicking them. And so, for example, if you have a marketing plan and something happens, like war breaks out, have you had a fire drill for how you're going to respond to that situation? Or in your example of Hootsuite, you're going to make a massive change to your business. Have you done a fire drill for what happens if everyone gets really angry and you have this sudden, and then all your staff get COVID and can't work? What are we doing fire drills for these things? And so, well, why would you do a fire drill? Is because you had looked across at what emergency services are doing and said, hey, that's interesting. We should learn from them and apply that in our own world, because that seems to work really well. Because then when the fire breaks out, we all know where we should, what our reaction should be. Because it did sound like, from what you've described with Hootsuite, that the CEO that was a very organic chain of events. It doesn't sound like this is what we do when this happens.
Yeah.
It sounded like there were people passing the buck and it was a bit uncoordinated and like they had never had anybody tweet them before,
Can I give you another example? I've got dozens of these. My website platform, the platform that we build our websites in, it's called Divi. So there's WordPress and then there's Divi as a, whatever they call it, within that. So they came out with this advertising campaign about 6 months ago. The latest release, blah, blah, blah. And the difference is this one's going to be so much quicker. I'm like, oh, good, because this has been an issue with this thing. It's amazing to use. It's reliable. It's solid. But it's kind of heavy. So it's kind of slow. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is what, it's $250. I don't know, I've got 4 or 5 websites, client websites, my websites, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, message them. This is great news. What sort of response can I expect to see on my websites? Like, here's the domains. And they're like, the guy messaged me back saying, oh, well, we did this one, and it was whatever it was, point something of a second. And I'm like, yeah, but that's 5 pages, and there's no, like, these are my websites. I want to know how it's going to look on my websites. And there was a to and a fro, and I got in a bit of a mood. But obviously, this was going to be the question. Like, it's like, so they're selling it. It's going to be faster. So the question is going to be, how much faster for me?
Talk to me about the
They
faster.
had prepared these people. The final response I got from this kid is when I realised I just had to give up. I mean, I hope it was a kid, because he said to me in a message in the chat, it's a bit like medicine. Like, you go to see your doctor and they will know which medicines are good for your disease, but they don't know how it will react for you as an individual. And I'm like, I think my last response might have been, you clearly don't understand anything about fucking medicine, because if I go to see a doctor, the one thing they're concerned about is how it's going to affect me individually. Like, they might know that this is good for the population, but they're going to want it. They're going to ask me, do you have any allergies? Have you had any
What other
reactions?
medication are you
Blah, blah.
taking?
What other medications? Exactly. That's why you go to the doctor. So it's horrific. Yet this goes on. Here's what I think is I think people are so far removed from their environment. People are so far removed from reality. This is the danger of the times that we're living in. Like, the reality is the Hoostsuite board got together. They did some creative thinking. They're like, let's put up our prices by 300%. The shareholders will absolutely love us. And no one ever thought about, oh, well, what if the customers don't like it? Or what if they don't get the emails, like thinking this? Or what if our help chatbot is complete junk? Or our customer service people don't give a shit? Or, you know, they didn't think about any of these things. They just thought, oh, this is genius. We'll just put the price up 300%. People are so removed from reality that they're not even thinking, like, what happens if this goes wrong? They're just thinking, hey ho, here we go. And it's this tangible thing again. It's this substance thing again. Do you know what I mean? You can make a decision now that kill your business maybe overnight. You know, and if you're making those decisions every day, how many days have you got before you've damaged it irreparably?
And look, I think it's the power of process. So, like, let's giving them the benefit of the doubt. Let's imagine that they've done the research and they reckon that they can retain enough clients to sustain them in more profitably than before with this triple whatever pricing. But even with that, what feels missing to me in your story was where was the modeling and the practice and the process for what happens when we have people not happy with this, and how do we look after them? What are the things we're going to say? And your other one, like, we're going to start talking about medicine. That sounds a little bit off script and kind of organic. Like, and I'm all for be yourself in a response, it's like be a human being as opposed to just stick to a script. But I think there's, it just feels like that's not quite landing from those stories you've told. Now, of course, you get occasionally things just go pear-shaped. But for me, it's actually that we rarely do fire drills, like where we actually say, here's our plan, we're going to do this. And then we go, what if scenarios? But then do we ever practice? What happens when let's have a fire drill? Like, you're going to be the one who's facing the gut, when for the media spokesperson, if this, and then you're going to do this and you're going to do. So, now let's practice. So we write these emergency plans and sort of like quick response type. And then it just happens that we don't practice those. And so that's just, for me, an analogous thing, looking at like what happens in emergency services, which is so clever, is that they do fire drills, and it doesn't happen in business often. So then we repeat the same mistakes that we made next time because we haven't actually debriefed after the event happened, nor have we had a rehearsal for the thing that is more likely to hit us again and again.
Okay, so I think I'm prepared to say, I don't know, I'm prepared to bet you a packet of polos that this is almost universal. You're saying it doesn't go on enough. I'd be astounded if it's going on at all. And I think this is a societal thing. We are so far removed from reality. We are so cosseted from any consequences that we just all become marvelously optimistic. Like, it won't go wrong. Like the pandemic, no one could have planned for. Like, no one could have expected that they were going to start locking up populations, not allowing them. So no one could have expected that. Okay, maybe they get a pass for that one, but it's almost like we were talking 2 weeks ago. This is like crisis management is management in 2022 because it is only crisis. It is only crisis. Like pandemic, war, what's next? It's only crisis. So, and nobody's preparing for it. So we're just steamrolling.
I mean, there are some incredible plans out there, but have we had fire drills is the question of the day. So, for example, Lismore, have they had let's imagine that a flood happens, fire drill,
Yes.
flood drill with citizens? No. Now, that's on a large scale saying, can we have 40,000 people for a day so we can do a fire drill? But, it's actually saying, what are emergency services planning to do in the event that there's a mass evacuation? Who's doing what? Let's actually imagine that we do that. So we have fire drills in our building, but at a large scale, we might, even if we have a plan that says if a pandemic happens or if this happens to happen, if it's discovered that our CEO has behaved inappropriately with a cheerleader or whatever, what is our plan? We have a plan for that. But then have we done a fire drill? Because it's really, for me, taking those lessons from, and they're just one example is emergency services, but there are other sectors where there are other lessons to be learned. And it's just sort of saying, really, we've got to be a bit more on top of these things because they're going to keep hitting us. And I really think the opportunity to learn from other sectors, for those who can do it, they're going to be ready when the thing happens.
Yeah. So I think there's a saying like soft people make hard times make hard people make easy times. So we're on this cycle, and I just think we're at a point in our history where we are so far removed from reality that
do you think we're a bit spoiled and a bit soft?
Sorry?
Do you think we're all a bit spoiled and a bit soft?
I think we are all hugely spoiled and soft. Because you talk about the floods, and I know that you will feel it's about global warming, but I would also question the fact that developers have been building houses in floodplains, that the investment in flood defences has gone down. It's like, it won't happen. And to go back to the Hoostsuite example, their strategy for dealing with this tsunami of unhappy customers is just to ignore them. It's like,
and at least they're not giving the wrong number actively. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's like what is that like? It's like that's like you make the shit decision, we're going to treble our prices, and then you make another shit decision, which is let's not have customer service in place to actually hear the issues and address the issues. It's like it's not one bad decision, it's like 8 bad decisions on the way to your business failing, and it's like,
I feel like this is the opposite of customer observation and insight, and we've got a book forming now called Ostrich Marketing. I'm just saying this out loud, where you stick your head in the sand and hope for the best.
This is what they do.
Yeah, it's really worrying.
Except you don't stick your head in the sand, you start with your head in the sand and you never pull it out. That's what it is. It's not like, oh, it's going bad. It's like we haven't got any idea what's going on in the world. Let's start changing things without having any sense of what that might mean.
That is a worry.
I think this is where we are. And we spoke before about this nuclear war thing. It's like, this is it. Like, people are on the news openly talking about World War III, and nobody seems to be putting the brakes on to say, let's do something different from that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's frightening times.
We do know in Lismore, which was the worst affected, I would say, area of Australia through these recent floods, and they were advised by Indigenous people of that area not to build there.
Yep.
Now, that was many, many years ago, because it floods. They were advised not to build there because it floods. And so
we're so clever. This is exactly what we were talking about before. We're from the West. We know we're so clever.
We have moved away from nature. That's the thing. And I think we think we can control the elements, but we really can't.
No, not just nature, from reality. We have moved away from reality. That's where we're living now. And there's evidence of it everywhere. So I don't know if this is the point where I want to do this. I'm just aware I've taken up so much of your hugely valuable time. I want to talk about, I've got a thing about how brands are responding to what's going on in the war. I don't know if I even need to share it with you because, or I can share it with you easily, because it was really just an excuse to talk about something else that went on. War in Ukraine, how brands are responding. Global brands, including Coca-Cola and McDonald's, have now suspended operations in Russia. 3 in 4 advertisers have reduced or cut ad spend since the war began. Google Ads has been turned off. Google Maps has been turned off. Like, all of these things. The reason that I wanted to talk about this is because I got an email from Upwork saying, basically, we support Ukraine and we are ending services in Russia, and so ending services. So the thing about this is that I don't think people who are making a living in Russia on Upwork are responsible in any way, shape, or form for what's going on in Ukraine. And I do not want to support a brand that has the ability to turn off people's incomes and does it. For me, that is frightening. So, this is the theme. It seems to me to be monumentally stupid. They clearly, this is marketing. This is all this is marketing. I'm horrified at the hegemony of what's going on. Like, the United States have instigated 80% of the wars that have happened since 1945. They were all illegal. We never blamed American people for that. We certainly never turned off their incomes. What I'm seeing is not like, I think discrimination happens, but what I've seen is discrimination is seen as the appropriate marketing play. It horrifies me. It horrifies me.
Yeah, you know what is interesting about this? Just checking it. Unilever is 123 years old.
Right.
So it's a very mature organisation, and it's making the decision to make public statements about its presence in Russia. Now, I think that's very interesting because this is a very old company.
Yes. And what are they doing in Russia? Sorry, they're
just that news piece you just put up with Unilever saying that they're suspending operations. They're not going to make any profits out of their presence in Russia.
Yep.
Alan Unilever, which is just that little quote above. So I think for them to make that decision, this is not a company that doesn't know what it's doing. It's been around. So it's interesting to me looking at the maturity of the company, and then the decisions alongside that. That's interesting to me. But I think it is, like, I think you talked about virtue signalling last time, but this is actually on the ground impact on their own income to some degree, but also the operations in that country. It's kind of interesting. You see, P&G, also a very old company.
Yeah, Procter and Gamble. You see, I think. What do I think?
I wonder, is it like that? Sorry.
What I think I'm saying is something slightly different, which is, it's not Russian people who are doing this. I don't
Correct.
want to get into the partisan thing of it. Like, so reportedly, this is a dictatorship, and this is why it's happening. But now we're going to punish Russian people. So the Upwork thing for me is the very crux of it, because they have the opportunity to take away people's livelihoods, and they are doing it. That to me does not make me want to support that more. I mean, if I was more exposed to Western media, it might, because it might, because there is only one opinion which is valid in this situation, which is this is a barbaric thing that Russia are doing. Russia are doing a barbaric thing, but other barbaric things have happened. What hasn't happened historically is that we've punished the people of that country for the acts of their government. So whether it's Russia's fault or Ukraine's fault or America's fault, it's definitely not the fault of people who are making a living from Upwork. That's...
Well, I think they did do that with Germany. And the German people became very poor, and there was a moment of galvanizing the Germans against the world.
During the Second World War.
Yeah. There was
famously Ford and who are the huge chemical companies? They all continued to production throughout the Second World War. You see, I think. I just think the way I see it is that when I got that email, I'm like, okay, now this is not just discrimination.
But these people have not invaded Ukraine.
These people have people who are,
and yet they're suffering. In fact, these might be the same people who are protesting.
They might be exactly those people who are protesting.
And now they're out of job.
Yeah, so it's that discrimination where they've said, okay, you're Russian, now you deserve to suffer. And it's the same with Facebook saying you can call for violence against Russians. You know, so what we are seeing is, this goes back to these conversations always have a theme. Like, are you not connected to reality? Like, do you not have the understanding of history to understand what this kind of universally accepted and promoted discrimination can lead to? Do you know what I mean? And it's...
Well, I guess the thing is as well, why do it? Is it going to say, is Putin going to see that from Unilever and say, you know what, now you've done that, I'm going to stop. It's going to double down, if anything.
No.
But so I would imagine that's not, Unilever is wise enough to know this is not going to stop Putin. It's going to send a message to our customers that we agree with them and that we are like them and that we all belong together.
And please, can we have more of your money? So it is absolutely 100% marketing. So that is exactly the point that I'm making, is that this kind of universally accepted and promoted discrimination is now a valid way of driving more sales. It's horrifying. It's really scary.
So we are jointly condemning an identifiable foe, and therefore
those people
we
over
are
there,
good guys.
We're
the good guys. It actually happened when the Black Plague came to. I'm trying to think what it's called now. You're not supposed to call it that. But when it came to Australia, it came on the boats from Britain.
Yeah.
But it was the Chinese that were identifiable. So these boats stopped in China, and the assumption was that the Chinese brought the plague, therefore the Chinese are evil and dirty and whatnot. In actual fact, it came from Britain, and Britain. The ships from Britain stopped off in China on the way, picked up a load of Chinese travellers, arrived in Australia. Everyone had the plague, but the Chinese were far more identifiable amongst the myriad of people from the British side.
Yes.
And so they were vilified. It's a whole aside, actually, I'm going off on a tangent, but it's this idea that you can identify and condemn, and then we belong together on we're the good side, and it's very, I'm with you on that. I do think, why make these people suffer when it will make no difference to the war? In fact, it might have a negative effect on Putin.
Yeah. And I don't think, there's a meme, I've run out of battery on my phone, there's a meme going around saying something like Pepsi Cola, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Facebook, Google, all switched off. If they continue this, the Russian people are going to be amongst the healthiest, well-informed people on the planet. Do you know what I mean? So there's an inverse to this also. The reason we're having this conversation in this context of marketing is that what I think we're seeing, is discrimination
of the innocent, right?
They're innocent. Well, it doesn't matter. Discrimination being seen as a valid marketing message. That's the horror of this for me. And all of these brands are doing exactly the same thing. And those that have the ability to turn off people's incomes are doing it. And I think that is just horrifying. That's what I think. Okay, how are we doing? Did you have one other story? Do we have 5 minutes for your very last story? We have a drop the dead donkey story sometimes with Jonas and I. About a drop the dead donkey story. We should try and have that if we're going to have as serious conversations as this.
Just to lighten it up. Look, I think we talked about the things that I was picking up on this week. So looking outside of sector to have lessons, delivering a brand promise, and big, customer observation. I think we talked about the things
Super cool.
Good on
I'm
him.
going to start putting this out on a Wednesday because, and I'm going to stop transcribing it because I haven't seen any benefit from putting tens of thousands of words on my website every week, and it takes me hours and hours and hours. So I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to put up 2 talk marketings on a Tuesday and a Thursday. This will go on a Wednesday. On the other Wednesday, I'm going to do a response, and then on the Mondays, I have to get my what the fuck's thing happening. So if it works for you to do this on a Monday or a Tuesday, that works better for me. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to just shift, I think you sent the invitation.
I did, yeah. So I will just switch it if that's cool. The one that's happening in 2 weeks, I will do it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I'll just pick a time and you can change it to the time that works for you. Everybody knows I'm here not doing very much and I'm hugely available.
Well, I think you're going to be busy soon because we need you looking at our marketing stuff.
Okay, that would be good.
But yeah, I'm walking my boss through it tomorrow night.
Okay, cool. Well, send it to me if you want me to have a look at it. I'm very happy to look at it for you.
Yeah, I'll let him have his way with it first, and then it'll be tweaked.
Okay. All right, super cool. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I think it's really interesting, and I'm hoping it's really useful for people. I think the theme for me today is think. What you think you know, you don't know. Think a bit more. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think is missing in the world and in business and in marketing at the moment. Like, do a little bit more thinking. That's what I'd like to see happen.
Yeah, a bit of humility. And also understanding that if you don't think, you're making a lot of assumptions. Assumptions are dangerous.
Yeah, assumptions assume makes an ass of you and me.
Exactly.
Yes. Good. All right, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
I'm looking for funny stories next time so we can lighten the load.
We definitely need a dead donkey story, don't we? So we can.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's what we need. You're an absolute legend. Thank you so much. Have a great 2 weeks, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time.
Yep, good. And, sorry about your friend. That's very sad.
Yeah. It's very sad.
Yep.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.